Hello there, and welcome to the fourth video about the MMU. I am the Marvel Master, and over the past few months I've been revealing how I would make a Marvel movie universe, and have shown you some of the movies from Act 1 and Act 2. This video will cover the remaining Act 1 movie, and what is essentially its sequel in Act 2, and at the end I'll tell you what the final three Act 2 movies are. So first up we have The Invaders, which would be quite similar to Captain America the First Avenger, but with more characters and a slightly different plot. We would get a sense of who Steve was, with an I can do this all day alley scene. Bucky says he's going to war, and Steve signing up and being noticed by Abraham Erskine, who enrolls him into the Super Soldier program, which is being funded by the nation of Wakanda, as the Proto-Shield knows about them in this timeline. They would even have sent their warrior, the Black Panther, with the gift of a vibranium shield to oversee it. There'd be a lot less training scenes in the camp, and Colonel Phillips would be essentially replaced with Nick Fury Sr. Howard Stark would either be absent or have his role minimized, and the same with Peggy. I'm going to say that they would be in the movie but would have smaller roles, especially later on in the movie. Abraham Erskine would be assassinated just after the Super Soldier Serum injection, and Captain America would chase down and catch the assassin, just like in the first Avenger. Publicly, Cap is just a face to sell war bonds, but he's also part of a secret strike force called the Invaders, which includes him, the Black Panther, and a flaming android made by Dr. Phineas Horton called the Human Torch. Their aim is to take down the organization known as Hydra, which is being led by a man named Baron Zemo, and his right-hand man, the Red Skull. In the How I Would Make a Fantastic Four trilogy video, I said that Phineas Horton was Frankie Ray's uncle, but I'd probably change it so that he's her grandfather, and change how her accent happens slightly or something, because otherwise the timescale just doesn't really work. Steve would find out that Bucky has been captured and is on a Hydra ship, and would disobey orders along with the rest of the invaders, and with the assistance of Howard Stark, to go and rescue him. It would be revealed here that Black Panther, who hasn't yet removed his mask, is actually T'Chaka, Crown Prince of Wakanda, who is only in his late teens, but like very late, so around 19. As the three heroes sneak aboard the ship, it would be attacked from the sea by Namor, the mutant king of Atlantis, who is not happy that Hydra has been mining in his ocean and extracting new substances they have been using to make chemical weapons, such as a substance named Adhesive X. As it turns out, the Red Skull and Hydra's chief scientist Arnim Zola are also on the ship, and while Red Skull would manage to escape on a helicopter with some vats of Adhesive X and plenty of the substances they've been mining, the heroes, Black Panther and Human Torch in particular, would manage to capture Arnim Zola, who'd been testing a weaker super soldier serum on Bucky. Namor agrees to join the invaders to take down Hydra, but we learn that Atlantis and Wakanda are essentially rival nations, but are currently in a truce. This doesn't mean that Namor and T'Chaka are happy about working together though. We'd get a scene of Red Skull telling Zemo what had happened, and Baron Zemo would call him a failure, before mocking his face or something, and saying that Adhesive X will make a great weapon. At the end of the movie, the invaders would attack Hydra's main base in the Alps. While Torch, Panther, and Namor fight Hydra soldiers, Bucky and Cap make their way to Baron Zemo's throne room, which has a balcony overlooking the Alps. Baron Zemo would have his mask off and back turned when the invaders arrive, but when he goes to put on his mask, he would find that it burns his face and that he can't pull it off, and it would be revealed that Red Skull had put Adhesive X in it. But there's no time for Zemo to kill Red Skull, because he needs to deal with the heroes first. Red Skull would thank the invaders for getting rid of the Zemo loyalists, and would mock Zemo's Adhesive X before saying that his scientists have worked on developing a more powerful substance he calls the Dust of Death, which kills anyone who comes into contact with it. He would also say that he has a plane ready that will spread the Dust of Death across the USA, and that thanks to him the war will soon be won, and that with his victory, he will lead Hydra into a new age, but first he does have to get rid of them being Bucky and Cap. Zemo would still be in great pain, so Red Skull would find himself facing off against both Steve and Bucky to begin with. The heroes would get the upper hand and would force Skull onto the balcony. Bucky would say that he has him and would tell Cap to go and take care of Zemo, who's starting to get to his feet, after basically collapsing in agony. Steve would rush towards him and get ready to throw his shield, but before he could, Zemo would click a button on the arm of the throne, which would cause the balcony to explode, and would send Bucky and Skull tumbling into the abyss. Cap would rush to the edge, but there would be nowhere in sight. When he turned back, Zemo would be slipping through a door into a factory portion of the HQ. Captain America would pursue Baron Zemo into the factory, and Baron Zemo would manage to disarm him of his shield by sticking it to a railing with adhesive X. Human Torch would then fly in, and would defeat Zemo by pushing him over the edge into a vat of adhesive X, into which he would sink and disappear. Captain America and Torch would then rush off to stop the plane that has the bomb of the Dust of Death that's going to be dropped on America. Human Torch's fires couldn't do anything to the plane, and the cold of the high altitudes would be affecting him, so it would be up to Cap, who would take out the pilots and crash the plane, just like in the first Avenger, even having the same conversation with Peggy as he goes down, or at least a very similar one. The post-credit scene would see T'Chaka about 50 years later looking at a picture of him, with Human Torch and Captain America, before being distracted by the sound of crying, and going and lifting his baby boy out of the crib, settling him and whispering, "Sleep well, T'Challa." So that was the last movie of Act 1, which you can now see in full and glorious fashion. I'll use this quick opportunity to say if you are enjoying this series or even just this video, it'd be a great help if you subscribed. I don't have any subscriber goals per se, but I'd like to eventually pass 1k subscribers, however long it may take. The last movie of this video is Black Panther Land, Sea and Air, and we'll have T'Challa as the new Black Panther as his father has just died, leaving him the throne. We would be introduced to his older cousin Killmonger, the leader of Wakanda's Secret Service for War Dogs, his General Okoye, leader of the King's Guard, the Dora Milaje, his younger sister Shuri, a genius scientist, and his mother Ramonda, the Queen Mother. There would be two problems T'Challa would have to choose between: going with the War Dogs to investigate a scientist named Walter Newell, who had discovered a vibranium deposit in the ocean, when it is thought to only have existed in Wakanda, and investigating weather anomalies on the Kenyan border with the Dora Milaje. While he knows Killmonger can be a bit violent, T'Challa decides to go investigate the weather anomalies, as he wants to show the people that he cares for them. Killmonger and the War Dogs would go to America and would kidnap Walter Newell as well as his designs, and would bring them onto a Wakandan ship before starting to interrogate him. The ships would be attacked by Atlanteans from the ocean, and Killmonger would escape on a speedboat pod thing, but the ship and everyone on it would be pulled underwater. Meanwhile, Black Panther has arrived at a village on the outskirts of Wakanda, which is outside of Central Wakanda's illusion field, and is how the outside world views Wakanda. Okoye would report that there have been a natural amount of rain there recently, far too much for a desert, and that apparently a goddess has taken human form and lives there. T'Challa would enter the village and greet the mayor politely, and the mayor would grovel at his feet, but look quite nervous, especially when T'Challa asked to see the apparent goddess. As the mayor led him to a hut with loads of offerings of food laid around it, he would tell T'Challa that they mean no disrespect to Bast, and still worship her, but that the villagers have just been grateful for rain after many years of drought. T'Challa asks Okoye why the capital hasn't been supplying the village any water, and Okoye would say that the request must have been backlogged. As they approach the hut, a woman with hair as white as wool, despite only being in her early 30s, would step out, and, unlike everyone else who had met him, would not bow to T'Challa, to Okoye's dismay. She would introduce herself as Aurora Monroe, and would politely say that when one can control the elements as she does not see the reason to bow to a king who does not assist his own people. T'Challa would apologize for himself and his father, but then would get an alert on his bracelet from Killmonger about the ship being sunk. He would invite Aurora to come back to the capital with him, but she would decline, saying that she's needed in the village. And we would also learn that she's been traveling Central Africa for the past decade, staying in villages for a year or two, and then moving on. T'Challa would promise that if there's ever a food or water shortage, the capital will send help before he then heads home with Okoye. We would next see Walter Newell waking up on the deck of the Wakandan ship completely alone. The ship is at the bottom of the ocean, and a large air pocket surrounds part of it. Two figures would swim and set their feet down on the deck of the ship, just on the other side of the bubble. One would be a tall, muscular figure with the Atlantean blue skin, wearing golden armor. This is Atuma, the Atlantean general. The other figure would be Namor, who would tell Walter Newell that he has only been kept alive so that he can make a machine capable of damaging and disrupting the effects of vibranium. Walter would ask why, and Namor would explain Wakanda to him and say that a group of Wakandan assassins had invaded and slaughtered one of the villages in his kingdom around a week ago. With a little choice, Walter would agree to help and would say that they need to bring him materials and that they should move the ship closer to Wakanda if possible, and Namor would agree. Killmonger would tell T'Challa how they were attacked by the Atlanteans and that he is the only survivor. Later in the movie, Namor and T'Challa would have a meeting on a beach with each of their armies a short distance behind them. T'Challa would accuse Namor of attacking his ship and breaking the truce, but Namor would say that it was Wakanda who broke the truce first. He would then say that he has a secret weapon which he will unleash on Wakanda if they do not surrender. T'Challa would say Wakanda forever, and the chant would be taken up by his army, and Namor would blow a horn to start a battle. We would see some of his soldiers dive underwater to where the bubbled ship has been moved, and would call for Walter to bring the weapon out, and he would emerge in his new Stingray suit, which he has been building in secret instead of an anti-vibranium weapon, though the suit does have some anti-vibranium qualities, as well as the ability to move extremely quickly underwater, give him short bursts of flight, enhance his strength, and most importantly, unleash electrical blasts. Stingray would burst out of water and land on the beach next to Namor, who would ask him what he is doing. Walter Newell would blast him with electricity, momentarily stunning him, before asking T'Challa for refuge and apologizing profusely for angering Wakanda. T'Challa would agree, and would forgive him with a slightly confused tone, but before he can say or do anything else, Namor and his armies would attack. Namor and Black Panther would fight while their armies waged war, and Stingray was escorted away, but the Wakandans would be overwhelmed and Black Panther would call for them to fall back. He would leap up into a nearby Wakandan aircraft. Namor would fly after them, but Stingray would glide in and blast Namor, which again would momentarily stun him, before flying into T'Challa's ship, which would head back to the capital. When he arrived, after telling his people to guard and watch for waterways, and bring all the people from the villages between the coast and the capital into the capital, T'Challa would call for Killmonger to join him in the throne room, and Killmonger would be very surprised to see Walter Newell there, nervous even. T'Challa would ask why Killmonger left Walter despite knowing he was alive, and Killmonger would say that he didn't know, but Black Panther would respond by telling the Dora Milaje to take Killmonger away and lock him up. Soon, using the rivers and waterways, the Atlantean army would arrive in the capital and a fight would break out. Black Panther would try to tell Namor that it was a ploy, but Namor would not believe him. When a wall exploded, and some of the Dora Milaje had to leave to help some civilians, Killmonger would take the remaining warriors out with his hands bound, before freeing his hands, and taking one of the Dora Milaje's spears. Storm would arrive to help the Wakandans, and would find herself fairly matched against Namor, after he manages to nearly kill T'Challa. At that point, Black Panther would ask if anyone in Namor's court has been acting suspiciously, and the Atlantean King would hesitate, only for a water grenade to explode in the air behind him and knock him to the ground. Killmonger and Atuma would be standing there with a group of war dogs and Atlanteans behind them, with one or two of the war dogs being in Wakandan aircraft. The two generals would explain that they met on a mission and realized that their goals aligned, as they both believed they'd be much better rulers of their respective kingdoms and could lead the two nations in an alliance to conquer the rest of the world. All they would need would be for their kings to declare war on each other and tragically die in the conflict, allowing their second-in-lines to rise up and settle a peace treaty. This would lead to the final fight, which would involve Killmonger and Atuma fighting Black Panther and Namor, respectively, while Storm and Stingray attacked the other traitors. The short version is, because I don't have a long version, that Atuma and Killmonger are defeated and taken to their respective kingdoms' prisons. Wakanda and Atlantis restart their tentative truce, as what Atuma and Killmonger did is revealed to all of the citizens and armies of both countries. Stingray returns to America, promising not to tell anyone about either nation, and Storm returns to her village, despite T'Challa asking her to stay. The post-credit scene would see Professor X meeting Storm in a field. He would open up with, "I am called Xavier, and I've come to make you an offer I pray you will not refuse," and would offer to take her from a land of people who adore her but no longer need her, to a world of people who may hate and fear her but need her nonetheless. She would decline his offer, but as he turns to leave, she would say that she will not forget him, and that one day she will take him up on his offer, and will one day become one of his X-Men. Cut to black. Out of those two, I definitely prefer my Invaders pitch, but I don't think my Black Panther pitch would make a bad movie, though maybe I'd try to bring in too many characters with Stingray and Storm. It would mostly be to follow up from Invaders, fully introduce us to Wakanda, and introduce Storm to later appear in Enter the Brotherhood, as mentioned in my previous video. As promised, I'll tell you the final 3 movies in Act 2, and they are Fantastic Four: The Will of Doom, Spider-Man: Last Stand, and Daredevil: Devil of Hell's Kitchen. But to find out what happens in them, you'll have to wait for my next video, whenever that may be. Have a good day, and ta-ta.